It's the Stranger Nerds here. We have our season finale of season 3, the Battle of Starcourt, and honestly, this one this lit up to the hype. This was a fun one.
It
Way
has
to
it's been a
save
long
your opinion, buddy. Just
Dude,
right off the
I don't I
top.
don't I don't care.
opinion. We have been hyping this episode up for what, about almost a year now since we've started this podcast. Almost a year it has taken us to get to the end of season 3. We are finally here, and I'm glad it is living up to the hype because it's a fucking great episode.
It's a banger.
This
It is
man,
a
this man
banger.
wouldn't have lasted 2 seconds as the host of American Idol. No suspense
Period.
whatsoever. He was been like, Chris Daughtry, hit the showers. Good night, everybody. Connor, we have sponsors. The show can't be done yet. We have to fill 58 more minutes.
But thing is, there's
You
a lot to
can't
discuss.
send everybody. You can't send everybody to Hollywood.
But there's still a lot to discuss. There's a lot of things I want to talk about in this. And no, but I still is not wrong because you guys have been hyping this up left and right, and fairly so.
Because not only is it probably the craziest, it probably has the most deaths in an episode to date. It's got probably one of the best music notes in the show to date. And I'll say to date because there's definitely better ones in season 4. And it's the longest episode to date.
Is it really the longest?
It is, yeah. It was like an hour and 18 minutes.
Yeah.
Compared to the others that are all like 40, 50 minutes. But we have probably the best soundtrack in this episode for all the season. But overall,
it was pretty good. It was pretty good.
And I know you were texting us earlier about the infamous scene that we will get to eventually.
Yes. I honestly
in the show
we would discuss it, but I had to rewatch that.
I honestly don't know what scene you're talking about. I feel like I'm out of the loop, but as soon as you say it, I'll know.
Have you not watched the episode, Mitchell? Did you not do your homework and watch the episode?
Yeah, I watched it. Originally, we had planned to record this last week. Shout out to Spectrum. Can't wait to get the credit added to my bill for your epic, tank job last week. But I watched it last week, so I feel like I did because there's a lot of different things. It's not like one thing where it's just like, oh, that's the thing that we're gonna be talking about. So I don't know. What could we be referring to?
We will get to it.
We will discuss it in depth.
Buddy.
But I was laughing so hard that I actually had to like rewind it like 3 different times because I couldn't just watch it because I kept laughing and turning my face away of like the.
Having known Connor as long as I have, I knew that scene was going to be something he would enjoy, and I'm glad I was able to predict that.
Yeah, let's dive right in here because we go in with Joyce, Murray, and Hopper on their way to Starcourt to find the kids, as their main objective was, and definitely I thought it was very interesting where Hopper is still doubting Murray. He's like, "You sure?" They said they're at the mall out of all places, and I thought it was like, no, kind of like he's been translating all this time with Alexi, and Rip, but like, at this point, like you should at least have some faith in Murray now that like, hey, this is what they told me, like, ride with it.
But that's kind of how Hopper is as a character. He's never one to put full faith into someone else. He always has to see it or believe it himself before he
that is very true.
Accept something, especially for someone like Murray.
Yeah, and then meanwhile, as we get the scene of the rest of the party, the actual party, trying to get the piece of the mind flayer out of Elle. Smart move by Jonathan, grabbing the piece of wood of the spoon for her to bite onto, because I was looking through it and I didn't cross my mind. I was like, why is he grabbing that? And then it's like, bite this. It's like, oh, that's a good call, because you don't want to bite your tongue off in there. And then we see the wonderful little piece of the flare come out of her, and Hopper steps right on it with a nice little entrance of, oh, hi, kids.
Are you not going to mention the little Grey's Anatomy scene where we just have the hand digging into Elle's leg?
Yeah,
Like,
that was
talk about
nasty.
painful.
Okay, my girlfriend watches Grey's Anatomy. I do not. I didn't know that was they do that kind of thing. Props to Jonathan. Like honestly, props to Jonathan in this episode because he was willing to like just screw it. Where I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
And I was singing his praises in the beginning of this.
But
Um,
they set you up for a good reunion. The second you see Hopper's foot kind of come into screen, squishing the piece of the mind flayer, it's like, all right, the whole crew is finally back together. So you know something's going to happen. There's going to be some big discussion of some sort because that is the only reason the Duffer Brothers bring everybody together for an episode is if
Yep.
there's going to be a big hash out session.
The
And then
roundup.
This series does a really good job of splitting people up in a way that makes sense, and also bringing people back together in a way that makes just as much sense. Because I feel like a lot of times it's kind of forced, where it's like, of course it's going to be these people doing this stuff with these people again, and you can, if you want to nitpick, there is sort of that kind of thing maybe moving forward, but I think that the pairings made sense in this season.
yeah, and I enjoy the fact they do that well because you have a lot of shows where if you have a lot of characters, they'll do like it's a this character only episode. Whereas Stranger Things, you just constantly go back and forth between
Well,
all the groups.
they tried that in season 2 and it sucked. So they said, "You know
Learn from
what?
past
We're
mistakes.
not we're not doing that again." And
We're
if you
put,
notice,
Mitchell,
now that
putting that in
season
the
3 is
past. We're putting
completely
that
over,
behind us.
has that episode been referenced? Have those people been referenced? No.
We're putting it behind us. Deep breath, Mitchell.
This is
Bye bye.
this is one of the really good ones, okay?
So, with the wonderful roundup, they discuss that the gate has to be closed again. Once they realize, oh, the Russians are back, and again, collection of everybody's intel, all coming together in 3 ways. Um, I think this is one of my favorite scenes in the show is Murray showing off Lexi's blueprints, and Erica's like, "You're gonna get your ass kicked down there, like you're gonna die,"
Yep.
and Murray's like, "Who is this child, this 4-year-old who is just telling me how it is?" And then Dustin pops up and like, "Yeah, like you guys are gonna die down there. We already got out of there once, and you guys will not have a good time." And Murray is just like, he's just bewildered of like the audacity of these kids, these children, and I thought it was very funny, but like it was, but again, like Dustin and Erica, like we already went through this shit already. We know what we're talking about. You need us. Suck it up.
And that's another thing that I would give high praises to the Duffer Brothers for is making you forget that these characters are still kids.
Mm-hmm.
Because when they're on their solo missions, like they're in life or death situations the entire time. It's not until they interact with adults that you're like, oh wait, these are fucking kids. Like they have to listen to them and actually like follow the rules. And Murray's just like completely like dumbfounded that these kids are just giving him orders as an adult.
It's nice too because they work that natural tension as well to their advantage.
Yeah.
Because again, like you're definitely dead on where like you don't really see the tension. Like they're good at putting that tension in place in opportune times.
Yep.
So, yep. And then so Hopper refused to let them to go down and be their navigators, quote unquote. So Dustin's like, hey, well, we can't radio down there unless we have something over radio antenna, which I do. And I was Cerebro, his callback to the very first episode of him and Susie. And that's the whole reason he built it to contact Susie, who lives in Utah. So
Home of the Mormons.
Home of the Mormons. Then Dustin apologized for being distant with the gang. But at the same time, like the gang's like apologized to them. It was they hashed it out. They made an awkward hug. That was fitting for the camera. I thought I had a little chuckle over that how they did that.
Yep.
I thought it was very touching with the scene with Joyce and Hopper talking to their respective children. Joyce always freaking out over Will.
Yep.
And Hopper, And honestly, now reading the show notes now and like thinking how the episode ends, though, I think like on a rewatch because I literally watched this. What I finished watching this an hour ago, so there's no time for a rewatch.
Yeah.
But like the thinking back and then reflecting on it, I think they did a really good job on that conversation between each other, and uh, and led into some good foreshadowing in between everybody,
Yep.
the whole situation to what's to lead to come.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so Steve, Robin, Dustin, and Erica, who is the what was their radio call sign? Scoop something. Um,
Scoop troops.
I
Scoop
think
Troop.
Scoop Troops and Murray was Bald Eagle. That was the
Yeah,
one
no, he was
Yeah.
Bald Eagle. Yeah,
I will
I had
always
that written
remember
down.
that
Yeah,
one.
Scoop Troops. Yeah, so Scoop Troops, which is Steve, Rob, Dustin, and Erica, take the Todd father, no convertible out to Cerebro. And then they all debate was he is real or not, because this is how this all started.
Yep.
And Steve was like, sure, man. Like, yeah. Like Robin's all in. Erica, of course, does not believe.
Quickly calls him out. You hesitated.
Yeah, you hesitated. Like, and like again, I don't blame Steve because like he again that kind of interaction like he is a child.
Yep.
Who knows he's making it up? But at the same time, like you don't build a radio like that just to like bullshit someone.
Yeah.
Like
But
that's
again,
what a purpose.
it's also Dustin. He's part of the big nerds club where they do
Yeah,
that stuff for fun anyway.
exactly. And then I like the tagline here, Mitchell. Before we continue, anything that you want to add in?
No, you're doing a great job.
Okay, perfect. Scoop this.
Trust me, you'll hear me when I have something to say.
Okay. Because the next tagline, it fits it perfectly, is things instantly go to shit. So Nancy finds out her car has been tampered with, and there's Billy in his wonderful car. I don't know what kind of car it was, but this I don't get this part personally because it's kind of like Billy's just staring him down, but like I don't know why he didn't engage.
The thing that I find funny with how they did this was they made Billy the petty villain that not only went ahead to personally sabotage the car, but he then went back to sit and wait for them to show up. To be like, surprise, assholes! Like he could have just went in, but he personally went out and waited for them to come out to him,
Yeah,
for them to try and get the car started and realize that it was dead, and then turn
He
it
waited.
back on.
He waited a long time
He
too.
played the petty villain hiding in the shadows, waiting for his opportune moment to make the great entrance.
and the thing is, like, I'm not opposed to the like playing the devil advocate of being Billy. Like, that's a great. He had a great idea. Take out the ignition, and yeah, you're set. You serving on a silver platter for the mind flare. Like, to me is like, at this point, why isn't he part of the flare now? That's the one thing I don't get. Because the fact that like, is he still using it as a mouthpiece for the flare? Is that his only existence now?
I kind of think so, yeah.
And like I can definitely see the flare being kind of like an egotistical kind of thing. Like at least that's how I perceive it. It's the way how Billy does things, and he's again using Billy as the mouthpiece. But like, but at this point, I'm like, does the flare even need Billy? And of course, Billy communicates with the flare, and we've seen that through this episode. But like, I just feel like I don't know the lack of a better term, the resources the flare used was definitely weird.
Yeah.
Like you could have multiple little flares running around. We see that already in the hospital.
Yeah.
And having multiple of those is a lot more effective than just having one giant one.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of
like that typical. He's kind of using Billy as like his lieutenant, his feet on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But
so I'm intrigued how
size and strength. He's not making more. He's just leaving that one person. And in
Yeah.
terms of having to save from casting more people, they pick Billy to get him more screen time.
Yeah, so I'm definitely intrigued if they in the future they do explain that, but we'll find out. Yeah, because reading through my notes that I took with it. Yeah, so they realize Billy's in the car waiting for them. He's there menacingly watching them,
Yep.
and then they go run back into the mall, and with that, Mike tries to call for assistance, while the wonderful adults are Team Bald Eagle. I love that call sign. I bet Dustin definitely made that because he did call Murray bald,
Yep.
and it was just pointed. I like it. Uh, Mike's calling for help while Murray tries to talk his way out with the wonderful Russians he meet at the end of the elevator, and Hopper's like, "Screw this!" Just Tommy gun style. What's that movie? Scarface is going all the way across, like
Yeah.
with his machine gun or assault rifle more so, and yeah, it's just everybody's doing their thing, and then the Top Father car with the Scoop Gang barely move up the hill. So everybody's doing their own thing, and yeah, Mike is freaking out, and the main core group is just under duress, while the other two have no idea what's happening.
Yeah.
That was ambitious of them to think that that car was going to get up that hill anyway. That was a tough ask.
It's very much a what's that childhood book? I think I can. I think I can.
Yeah, you got it, buddy.
Yeah, something like yeah.
The little engine that could, I think, is what you're
Yes,
referring to.
I could.
I was
Yes.
gonna say it's not Brave Little Toaster.
No.
But two things I want to mention. One, that was one of the scenes I thought was really great in this episode was with in terms of music, having the really like good pump up music of Higher and Higher playing, and Steve's just like fully invested. He's like, I want this car to get up the hill, and there was like, it's not going to make it. He's like, oh, it's going to make it, and it just completely falls short. And two, with Murray, I thought it was an interesting choice with his character and how he was upset with Hopper killing the Russians, with how he's been so against, obviously the Russian people and, enemy of the state and all that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden, it's like now he has a heart since Alexei died. Like, these are just innocent people that you just gunned down. So I thought that was kind of
that's a good point. Like a kind of a turn for Murray's character in that aspect of like, oh, like more of a human element to them than there were before, in like an unknown phase.
Yeah.
I can even comment, and I'll step in a little bit, or like ahead where there's a scene where Murray smooth talks the guard, and the guard lets him in, and I think it was Hopper made the comment like, no, little too much talking there, and it's like, I was being friendly, like you being friends with them now, like.
Yep.
So I thought that's a very good comment, like how even though it wasn't long, the effect Alexei had on Murray as a whole, and like the friendship that was hopefully to blossom, that never came to be.
Yep.
So back into the mall, into wonderful Starcourt. The gang is trying to get their bearings, trying to figure out what the next step of plan is. Mike can't get in touch with any of the groups so far, especially Scoop Troops. And Jonathan comes to the bright idea again. Jonathan being on point, like, hey, no, we can't use this car, but we can take the piece from it and put it into the other one. And this is where there was a part where, kind of foreshadowing this earlier in the episode, where Hopper tells Elle, like, hey, I know they're talking about her battery being low, and then Hopper's like, don't push it. And then now we're seeing that Elle. I made the comment here, like, oh, is Elle losing her power because she couldn't make any effect? And then she tries out the soda can later on in the episode, and to no result whatsoever.
Yep.
So Elle tries to flip it, can't flip the car. with giving her Darnus. And then Mike comes with a wonderful idea using leverage to pull it up just enough to make it flip. They get the piece. And that is when they're starting to get things going. Elle's trying to do the soda can, and while Max and Mike go to talk to Elle, like see if she's okay, we got some wonderful cracking above them. And when we have honestly a we'll sense it coming. He really, you say in the notes that he's like Will's big moment. Like
It's called sarcasm, Connor.
I'm like, I'm seeing Will's big moments. Like I'm recapping this like part off the top of my head. Going, like I'm
It's
seeing the scene. I was
it's
like,
the only
he
only
did,
snippet of acting that Will does in this entire episode, and it's his typical spider sense where he touches the back of his neck and goes, "It's here."
because you honestly like seeing that you're making me doubt. Like he did jack shit. Like because he couldn't say something. He could have did anything.
I'm
But
deeply
no.
sorry that I thought we were far enough in our relationship that you understood when I was writing sarcastically.
And even then, I'm all for sarcasm. But the entrance to the Mind Flayer, that was pretty sweet. And it just kind of drop it in. It's like, sup? And it was nice to see actual, like, no, we had the kind of the first encounter out the cabin, but actually seeing it now in its full size,
Mm-hmm.
that thing is a monster. Um, so, I'm trying to see what should we pop to. Yeah, I'm just going to follow how this episode goes and see if we should pop anywhere else because there's just so much shit going on.
Yeah, that's the other downside to these shows. It's constantly going back and forth.
Bounce.
Yeah,
Because we get the because Grigori just show up down the elevator and obviously like, oh, here comes round 3 because we
I
all know.
lost count of how many rounds they fought in, but I think we're close to 5 at this point. I don't know with how many times Grigori and Hopper have fought.
I think it's 3.
I don't know because there was the first fight when they were in
In the
old
house
lab,
with the bed.
and then
The second one was in the fair area.
no, that was the third because the first fight was in when Hopper and Joyce went to Hawkins' lab to ensure that it was shut down properly, and Hopper got attacked from
Ah,
behind.
that's right.
That
That's
was
right.
the first fight.
This would be the 4th then.
Yeah,
So round 4. Yeah, I forgot about that very first interaction they had where he just got his ass kicked. Hopper got his ass kicked.
it's been a little while, so it's all
It's
right.
been a bit. So, and then we get the scene with Joyce Hopper reminiscing about their adventures, and then they get bickering again, and definitely like he calls her out on the plans to move and kind of flipping around where because that was the restaurant that you first planned to have the date at, correct?
Yep.
And George flipped around, was like, "Hey, we're going to be here. Let's have a date at was it Enzo's or whatever it's called." And I thought it was very sweet where Hopper still cares about Elle. Is like, we can't do 8 o'clock because of the fact that at 10 o'clock Miami Vice is on,
He's sounding like a true dad. He's embraced his role.
And I was like, that's a good commitment. I was like, okay, let's do 7 o'clock. That was a very nice scene. I really did enjoy that. And then, meanwhile, on the surface in the mall, we get the wonderful chaos that is the Flare versus the kids.
Yep.
What was a versus? More of a stalking, if you'd say.
Yeah, it was kind of a one-sided fight because it was more of how can we distract. It was just how can we distract it long enough to keep it away from everybody else.
It's hide and go seek.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was basically it was just kind of distractions.
So one thing that did crop through my mind during this too is, can this thing sense Will back? Because I'm surprised it didn't.
That's something that's always kind of confused me with Will's character, because he he doesn't do much in the show other than do the little spider sense tingle, but they keep doing it over and over as if it's supposed to mean something, but they don't tie anything else to it other than the fact that it's just Will can sense it when it's nearby. He's like that little trigger warning, but that's really it. All other connections to the mind flayer have kind of been lost.
Yeah, and to me, I feel like it's supposed to be more for an audience kind of thing. Like, oh, you're given extra information. Like, what's the word I'm looking for? Where it's a type of literary device where the audience knows something that the actual characters don't.
Uh,
I know what you're referring to, but it's too late in the evening for my brain to
yeah.
look at the word.
Yeah, some Shakespearean thing. But like that to me, like that's at this point, that's the only thing they've been using Will for, and
Yeah.
that's it. And I think it's kind of sad because I feel like they could have rounded it out a lot better. Because I feel like that kind of took away some of the tension too. Is like because I'm sitting like, is he gonna recognize Will's? I'm gonna say aura of like, oh, he's hiding behind there, and then they come up with a quick idea. But it's more of a kind of Jurassic Park, distract the raptors and bounce
Yeah.
situation. Um. So yeah, so Mike, I thought it was very cool too, where because you can definitely tell the Flare has a mind where the Dustin calling out on the radio, and it was cool where the Flare took the radios to scream into it.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, that was a cool little scene. That was fun.
Mind flayer used taunt.
Yes. Max, Mike, and 11 try to escape through the gap, and then one of them makes a commotion. So now we have this kind of alien scene referring to the movie,
Yep.
where we're getting this kind of the tendrils are moving around, the kind of stalking vibe to it. You know, it hits the mannequin. Very, very creepy and very, very well done in that segment.
And a little fun fact, I like how they picked the mannequin that was wearing the same shirt that Elle was wearing, so it's almost like it could see it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, how much vision does this monster even have?
I didn't catch that actually.
Yeah, the shirt on the mannequin was the same shirt that Elle had. I don't know if it was. I can't remember if she was wearing it in that episode, but it was
She
the
wore
one
it
that
before.
she bought it at the mall.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it's just an odd coincidence or what.
And then props to um, Lucas,
With his
where
rusty wrist rocket.
with the
3
wrist
seasons
rocket,
later, that thing is
because
still rocking.
at first he aimed right at it. I'm like, dude, like I understand trying to save your friends, but like you're going to get yourself killed in this situation. Like they're going to know where it came from.
Yep.
But shooting at the balloons, making a noise, I was like, okay, decision making was actually smart there. Like that he actually thought that one through.
Yep.
So that was their chance to get away. And they started booking it, and they get to the parking lot, and then they try. I thought that was very how quick he tried to attempt to fix the. I don't know exact part when it was an alternator or whatever. Like I feel like it was just kind of like threw it in there and just like, okay, let's see if it works. And
yeah, it's that Hollywood magic again of we're just gonna quickly assume we fixed it, but even though in real life you probably did absolutely nothing, and the car probably wouldn't have started. But hey, it's Hollywood.
So and then, meanwhile, though, Steve and Robin's like, we gotta help save those guys. They're getting their ass kicked, so they're on their way, and then. At the same time, Murray gets to his spot, and Joyce and Hopper are trying to take care of their segment and enter the wonderful code of Planck's constant, and they're arguing on the comms. And Dustin's like, "Wait, we need to know Planck's constant. I got the person," and start switching channels, and then we finally get Susie.
Susie in real life, baby.
Honestly, she picked. I the way I pictured her was to the T. It was very fitting. I kind of got crap. What's that one movie?
Oh
Oh
no.
no, it's gonna bother me. Oh, I will return to it later if I can pull it from the
It's always fun to watch you struggle with movies and actors' names.
dude. It's just how I
It makes
am.
me happy every time you have this moment.
Yeah, I will poke around if I can as I still talk this through. But oh, Susie is real, and I was very glad to see like okay they had this whole build up, and she's mad at Dustin for not answering because what's real? It's been well, what's been the time period so far? Like 3 days?
It's been a very short period of time. I would say probably about a week would be my
Okay,
guess.
because I was trying to think like how long Dustin was underneath the
I would say close
mall.
to a week because you got to think of travel time and all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah,
Because
because there was a slow buildup in the beginning. Because I don't know if because Dustin attempted to reach out to her or in the very beginning of the season, and then I was the only real.
yeah, that first episode is when
So
he
yeah, there
first made
wasn't.
contact, and since then he hasn't done. He's pretty much been stuck at the mall. But
Yeah,
it also
I was just thinking about it.
yeah, but also to give credit to Dustin for actually building something actually that actually works that well because they're in Indiana, and if you notice, she's all the way out in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Hmm.
So he actually built something
Yeah, that's
that
impressive.
to reach that far. That's great.
So Dustin's trying. Dustin goes to her. You know, obviously she is a brainiac, and it's like, hey, I'm trying to save the world here, and like it's kind of funny. It's like the flip version of oh Dustin's got a girlfriend to where Susie's like, "Oh, you're trying to save the world again," like not believing Dustin here. It's
Yep.
like, look, I need to know Planck's constant. It's for the world's sake. And she's like, yeah, sure. And Dustin decides to change the channel, and also I want to mention too where Susie kind of got, I guess I want to say, I guess perturbed is the right word for this, where she did hear Erica's voice,
Yeah.
and she's like, "Who's that?" And Dustin's like,
Interference.
interference," and decided to change the channel so it was on all the frequencies of everyone.
Yep.
And
Which was
this,
also a smart move. That way, she didn't know she's being live broadcasted, but everybody can hear without having
yes,
to relay information.
because okay, let's be real, Dustin wasn't expecting a concert for everyone to hear,
No.
but to be fair, and then the
And Mitchell, this is the musical number we were referring to earlier.
so
Okay,
to
this
put it
is
past the
what
curtain.
I was thinking that it
Yes,
was,
this was I
but
was dying
okay.
laughing over this. But the thing is, like, because of the fact that Susie hasn't talked to Dustin in such a long time, she wanted to have a little piece of him. You know, because obviously they built this tradition of them singing the theme of or the title song of Never Ending Story.
Yep.
Which
Um,
I've never seen, by the way.
I actually
I
hadn't either.
I actually have
Holy
not
shit!
Oh,
yes.
Holy,
nice.
it's a historical moment with the Jersey nerds here. Connor has seen a movie
Really?
that we haven't.
Yes, this is the one with Falcor. Yeah, Falcor.
I
Um,
sure.
yes, it's honestly
I just know there's a dragon in it.
Falcor and PayPal, they're both in it.
there is a really sad scene though in that movie where
With the horse.
the horse
That-
dies.
that
I know about that's the only thing I'm gonna know about the entire movie and
And I
this
thank
song.
TikTok for that because that's the only thing I've seen it from.
But honestly, like it's a good movie. Like I thought that like for a children's movie back in what this was a 75
80s, 80s.
84.
Here, Connor.
80s.
Again, still for 84.
When did that movie come out? 1487.
Honestly, with some like, there's a weird like gap in technology between like the 70s and 80s. It's like, oh, weird shit. Especially with children's movies. Let's be real. So they start duetting, and this is when and doing the whole the harmonizing between this is why I texted the boys. Is like, oh, this is, and I had to literally rewatch the scene 3 or 4 times because I couldn't stop cracking up and not paying attention to actually what's going on because everybody's hearing this live broadcast and all the reactions of like, because I'm actually kind of sad where you didn't write this out, Tommy.
I apologize. My notes are not up to your standards. I try to put as much as I can without making it
I know
word.
but each reaction was gold. Where Joyce is like face like head against the wall, Hopper's just standing there like in like bewildered.
Hopper's pulling the full dad mode of, what is this shit?
Yeah. Then Robin and Steve hear it in the car. We're like, the hell is going on here?
Susie.
I don't. No, yeah, and then you had, of course, Lucas and Max and all of them are hearing this as they are almost struggling for their lives.
They're struggling for their lives hearing their friend sing. They're probably like shocked, like, he can sing.
But also like, what the hell you're doing? Like, oh, it was so good. It was such a good like.
My
because
favorite,
it was so jarring.
My favorite reaction to all this is what I did write down was how Dustin's reaction after the end of it is as if this was like that annoying side quest you have to do in a video game. It's like you have to beat a mission, but you have to go on that annoying side quest to get something you need to complete that mission. That was his annoying side quest that he had to complete. He's like, shut up, everybody. I know. I had to sing. Leave me alone.
Adorable, though. Adorable. So, then right after this, we get our wonderful just-in-time where, as this is all going on, Jonathan's trying to start the car. Nancy's firing her pistol at an incoming Billy with his car. And then, boom, we get Steve making a nice T intersection right with Billy's car.
Suicide run. That was a head-on collision. He should have been dead from that hit.
Somebody should have at least been hurt.
What should have been happening was Nancy should have just fucking gotten out of the way instead of standing there waiting for the car to be. Like, she played chicken with the fucking speeding car. Like, I'm sorry, get the fuck out of the way.
While firing a pistol at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely a. For all the smart things Nancy done, that was a dumb moment.
Yeah. But either way, it allowed Steve to be the hero for Nancy and save her life.
Yes, it
Something
was.
Jonathan did not do.
I got to talk about that later now. That just kind of popped in my head.
Okay.
So the Mind Flayer turns back. So then Max, Mike. So I've been reading this through. Max, Mike, and Elle are still at the mall. Still, they didn't hop. Because once that all happened,
there's a lot of moving around. It was hard.
There's a lot of things going on. Okay, yeah, because I got the order wrong. Where the duet happened after the car accident.
Yeah,
because they were all in the hatchback together of Nancy's mom's car. So that's when the duet happened.
Yeah,
then the Mind Flayer is chasing them out from there.
Yeah,
and then Max, Mike, and 11 went to leg it out, and then Billy sees them as he crawls out of the car, and then of course Mr. Mike telekinesis to the Mind Flayer. It's like, hey, get your ass back here. The target's here.
Yep.
So Billy goes, corners them. Max is trying to call to a sense of being. Billy does not give a shit.
Just
Takes her out.
backhands both of them.
Yep. Mike takes it out as well, and then Elle not having her powers is kind of just a sitting duck, and then Billy takes over the shoulder, and I thought it was very like ceremonial as he kind of placed Elle where she was laid, kind of like a sacrificial to an altar, like of an altar.
He's been kind of doing the same thing because that's actually the same. The word, like what he was saying to Elle as
Yes,
he carried, was the same thing he's been saying to every victim he's had.
yes,
So
that's
it
correct.
is kind of very ceremonial in a sense.
Um, so as Elle was about to get eaten up by the wonderful Flair, who returned back to his sacrifice, for lack of a better term, uh, the gang buster assed over to chase down the Flair that turned around, and Lucas's Hall of Fireworks came in handy. And I thought this was a very this is a also very chaotic scene in general because you have a lot of things bouncing around.
Yeah, a lot of
So
stuff bouncing around.
Because I thought the cinematography of this was very fun, where it's like very chaotic. They're embracing it overall, like one of the Duffer Brothers of like it's this one thing after another of these high tension moments between both these two parties. So we get the uh, we get Hopper and Joyce with the keys about to turn off the what do you call that? The laser gun thing, the
I
portal
think they
opener,
refer to it as the key.
the key.
The Russians refer to it as the key.
Yes, the key Russians convert to the key. That's correct. So they try to turn off the key to the portal, and then let's be real. Like I saw it coming a mile away. I'm like, all right, here it comes. Like,
Yep.
where is he? To me, I'm like, why didn't Gory just like take a gun and shoot him or something? Like, save your problems. It just has to pick the fight.
Because you have to have the U.S. versus Russia, Rocky IV showdown to be a true '80s Russian versus USA fight. You can't just
That is very true.
can't
That
just
is
shoot.
very true.
It's a cop out.
So that fight's going on. Joyce very smartly tries to use her belt to turn both keys at the same time to turn it off while
I was
Hopper is.
impressed with that. That was hard. That looked extremely difficult.
Yes, I was like, go Joyce. Always think on a tip of her toes on her feet. Just figure out a way to survive.
Yep.
Uh, good fight scene. I really did enjoy the fight scene between the Hopper and Grigori, and like, no, very much.
But to play devil's advocate, had she not been able to do that, maybe that would have inspired Hopper to do some crazy move to get to her to turn the key, and he might have still lived. But he
Maybe.
knew he knew she had it under control, so he was like, "My fate's in your hands. Turn the key."
Well, I don't even know how Hopper even understood that she can turn both at the same time. Like, to me, a Hopper, I would have been, if I was Hopper, I would have been busting my ass over to turn the key with her.
Yeah.
So, um, and then we get the fireworks. They're running out of ammunition. Max and Mike finally arrive, and I think Elle tried to realize what Max was trying to do earlier, and then realize like, oh, the memories that she encountered in the first time she mentally linked with Billy, and recalls the memories of his mother, and like it's very descriptive, and like I want to see if you saw the same thing I did. Was like the veins on his face like kind of retreat?
Yeah, it was kind of him coming back to himself. Um, I kind of saw it similar to season 2 with like the whole possession aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, all the Exorcist movies, you have that moment where the person kind of like turns around, they like look normal again.
The clarity.
Yeah, I think that's what they were sort of going for with that scene.
I was making sure like I saw that correctly. I'm like, oh, is this what they're going for here? And the and it was like if you see like Billy. The one thing I was thinking about as we're getting this next impactful scene is, does Billy remember all he's done?
I
Because
think so. I would think so, only because of how Will talked about being possessed in season 2 and 3, and like how he was saying, it's like having
Mhm.
someone in control. It's like you can see everything, but you have no control over
Goldie
yourself.
body, yeah.
So my
So
guess would be yes.
Billy makes this grand act of sacrifice by keeping the mind flayer at bay and allow Elle to scamper away, um, and then is very much impaled by all these tendrils, all like just like straight to the chest, and it was very much a graphics not the right word, but like impactful scene of like seeing this occur.
Yeah,
And then right at the same time, we get as Dustin's calling, turn the damn thing off, like the key, and Joyce finally gets both keys turned, and then we see the connection get cut from the mind flare.
yeah. It's kind of that wild redemption moment you have for all those villains, because like Billy wasn't really a villain in a sense; he was just a dick. But it's just like that kind of final moment where he realizes that he's the only person that can help, so he just takes it on. And plus, he's probably really pissed off that thing was possessing him for so long. So it's like, this is my moment to get back and redeem myself a little bit. But
Yeah, it took him from a complete ass to a major villain, and then at the end, kind of, I don't want to say a sympathetic character, but you do have sympathy for just where his life was going and
yeah,
then what ended up happening as a
I mean,
result of just a lot of
we
tragedy and
talked about it
trauma.
before, in that his personality came from a lifelong childhood of trauma and abuse from his father. So it's just that's kind of what he took on to cope, I guess. And it's like, had he had different circumstances, he could have been a nice person. But it's like this was his one moment to be good again, because 11 reminded him of his mom.
Mm-hmm.
But sadly, we've lost Billy.
So while this is happening with the turning up the fight with Grigori, with Hopper does push Grigori into the wonderful key that just makes a nice blurry, bloody slushy.
Yep.
And then once that happens, the electronical pulse comes from the key and kind of like makes like a, for lack of a better word, electrical fence
Yeah.
in between him and Joyce, giving the signal, "Hey, I'll be okay," or "Let me be." Do it. And then Hopper and Joyce, sorry, Joyce and Murray link back up, and Murray's like, "Where's Hopper?" And Joyce is like, "He's gone."
Yep.
And Murray's like, "Let's get the fuck out of here. Like, book it." Um, and yeah, so, and then we get the scene where Billy apologizes to Max and dies in the spine. Like, I can definitely feel Max being conflicted here too. Of like, oh, this is someone who I didn't treat like my brother, but she also definitely, she grew up with him. There was some connection.
Yeah.
And I made the comment in my notes of like, oh, of course the military comes now.
Yep. Of
Uh,
course.
Always at the last possible second.
You have to have the heroic fly-in. But it was a cool
And
scene though, with Dustin and Eric on the hill, just watching all the helicopters fly over them. And it's like the cavalry's finally here, even though like Dustin thinks the day is saved, even though he doesn't realize like how much damage has already been done.
Yeah.
Hopper dead, Billy dead.
Yeah, and then Dr. Sam Owens, the research lab operator from season 2, he's quote unquote leading the charge.
Yeah, he's pretty much the
And
main guy in charge of that.
so group's all united, and we have this sad moment where Will and Joyce embrace each other, and Elle does not see Hopper, and Joyce locks eyes with her, and like the knowingness of like Hopper's now gone.
Yeah,
That was a pretty sad
the
scene.
heart wrenching scene, and she basically is like, "I'm going to be your mom now. Hopper's dead. Come to me, little child."
I'm looking through anything else that I have missed with that. Nope, we're good on my notes as well. Mitchell, anything from you?
Yeah, no, this episode had a little bit of everything. I guess we're not at the. We've got more to go until we get to
Yes, we have.
that part,
We're
but
we're almost there.
yeah.
Yes.
I just. No, I'll save it.
Okay. So we get so that's the end of the situation. Also, when the military camp comes, like, how are they covering this up? We're like a giant, like, imagine you're some military guy, like, oh, I'm on some special detail, and then you go and he's like, this thing's made of bodies. What the hell? What the hell happens here? And like the firefighters who went inside there, like, or I assume one or two of them went inside, like, what the hell is supposed to know?
Well, that's
Like,
where you go back to the theme of, like back in the 80s, it was all about the, U.S. government covering stuff up. And it's like, this is your classic cover up. You have little, like, monsters and Russians
this
inside
is not
the
even a
mall.
cover up. This is like, this is a circus tent that's covering this whole damn thing, and all it is a circus. Like,
Yeah.
because this is like this is the point of like wildness.
But you got to remember, that's what Dr. Owen's job is. Because in season 2, when he was put in charge of Hawkins' lab, he said, "I'm the guy they send in to fix things when things go south." That's what his job was. Now he came to basically clean up the mess of Starcourt Mall.
And like the other thing too is, why was there such a large response when they never even checked up what was going on?
That's a good question. My guess is
Because the only information I had was Joyce yelling at them like, "Yo, shit's going wrong here. Get your ass over here because things are not right."
my guess is the fact that Hopper and Joyce have such a strong history with Dr. Owens that I'm sure once Dr. Owens got that report of like things are going south and these are the people that called in, Dr. Owens is probably like, "Oh, we need to get there quick."
Pronto.
Yeah, I had to go back and look, just like, okay, I'm kind of confused why he's here now. Has he been in this season and I just didn't realize it? But no, he's in season 2, and then just makes an appearance in this one. So I thought that was kind of, I don't want to say out of place, but it just confused me for a minute.
They only referenced him, but never actually had him on screen.
But it's just another way the Duffer Brothers make everything count in this show. There's always things being called back. Every character relationship gets touched on at some point in each season. Like they don't just let things hang, which is nice.
So 3 months later, we get this fun little Dateline clip of how pretty much Hawkins is going to shit.
Yep.
All the conspiracies. We got a clip of Mayor Klein is arrested. Hopper's labeled as decorated hero. We also, I thought, was very prevalent to this time period where we got a clip of the D&D games coming up and thinking it became the rituals, which is very pertinent to this era where we have what's called the Satanic Panic.
Yep.
And someone who has played D&D, and like I've done reading, and this is another game I play, Magic the Gathering, very much the same thing where there has been multiple times where innocent things that these children are doing get blown such out of proportion, where especially like those who have a what's the word looking for here? A motive's not the right one, but like a way to scare others, to cause that kind of fear within for their children, for their own purposes, definitely took this as, oh, they're doing cult like things.
Yeah, mass hysteria and paranoia.
Mass hysteria is a good way to put it. Yes. And it was something that was a very very much real,
Yeah,
and there are families out there who would not let their kids play D&D at all. And I was actually reading again. I happened to come across the other day with came to Magic the Gathering, where this was like actually the '90s when Magic the Gathering had this issue, where um, they had to deal with parents. The parents sued the New York State school district because of the fact that they felt like that this card game that like they let them play on the premise was actually negatively influenced their children.
yeah. Everything has had that. I mean, hell, even with the fucking church, when I was in elementary school, we got letters saying that we shouldn't watch Harry Potter and Narnia because it's goes against the Catholic ways.
I never got that.
Oh yeah,
I've been very
they sent
fortunate.
letters home to our parents to basically say, "Hey, don't let your kids watch these. Like, it's against the Catholic views and all this kind of stuff." And we were just
Yeah,
like, "It's fucking,
That's
it's a
insane.
movie."
this is why I just abstain from religion as a whole. You know.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, but hey,
That's
which is
I'm agnostic, my man. Yeah, but like I did not know that. I did not know that happened to you at all.
yeah,
That's wild. I grew up Roman Catholic. I had honestly the people who were in charge for us were pretty chill. Like they were honestly pretty level headed. So I've been very fortunate in that aspect, and staying with my parents. So like I was at least able to go into this kind of things that I had interest
yeah.
in. So we get the clip of the scene where Steve and Rob get jobs at the video store. We see where Keith, who was the man at the video arcade, is now working at. And I thought it was very funny, Robin wingmanning Steve so hard to get him this job. And
You get a whole nother level of Steve being just a complete, just he's such a preppy kid that he just doesn't fit in with normal people anymore, which cracks me up because of how many nerds he hangs out with. He can't even name 3 movies. Like, that was just the most embarrassing. I was like, come on, just think of a movie. Like, you're in the middle of a movie store, and I
Grab
just love,
something.
I just love how Keith goes, "Eyes up here, buddy. Look at me.
yes,
3 movies,
yes.
go."
Oh, like just calling him out.
And the
I was wonderful.
Star Wars, which one? Oh, the one with the teddy bears, of course. Just Steve, just he just isn't going anywhere in life, which is sad. 'Cause, like, he's such a good character, but it's like once he's out of being a great babysitter and saving the day, it's just like he's hopeless.
And like, was he's already graduated too.
Yeah,
So like, and he's not going to college at all. So like, it's kind of him trying to find his own path there. And then Robin convinced Keith that Steve would bring all the girls, which I think is very funny. Like, her greasing the wheels a bit.
yep,
Um, and then we get the scene of the buyers packing up their house and all the other kids helping out.
yep,
Very sweet scene where Joyce finds a letter that Hopper wrote to Elle back early in the season, where
yep.
writing the speech to talk about Mike and her relationship, and like how talking about feelings, which Hopper is hard to do.
Yep.
And I thought that was a very nice tie back to the very
Those
beginning of
final
it.
words of Hopper, kind of like to close out the episode, was just like heart wrenching.
And the fact that like, they threw that in there in the very beginning, just like, and have it tie all the way back through, and like it be very poignant to the situation where Elle is in now.
Yep.
I thought was very the Duffer Brothers did a very good job of hiding its true purpose in the very beginning of the show to really close it out here.
Yep.
Max and Lucas is teasing Dustin about his duet, which is funny as shit.
Yep.
Will donating his D&D board, his game set, saying he would never join another party, a group's party, saying kind of acknowledging that he's still with them.
Yeah.
And then Dustin and Lucas then giving Erica Will's old stuff.
Yep.
Like, hey, you're a nerd. Come, you're joining us.
Yep.
Deal with it. And yeah, that was the main ones. So I think anything else I'm missing on that section to see before we get to the very last part?
No, that's kind of it. It was just the parting of ways. We find out that the buyers have adopted 11, and they're moving out to. I don't know if they mentioned it in the episode where they're moving to.
Anywhere else?
Yeah, they didn't mention it.
Okay.
I do have a few bullet points of my own.
Okay.
I still was one. I don't know where this is referencing to, but I said, "LOL, Will crying."
Oh, you'll see.
I just had to bring that up. At the end of the letter, I thought it was very, very funny how Hopper like it tied back up like, oh, the 3 inches comment at the very end was very perfect. That was like a very funny way to end it off. I thought them pausing the scene or having a nice like step back where Joyce turns around and looks into the house. And I don't know about you guys, but my first thought was all the shit that's gone in that house. Light bulbs on the wall to a giant map of tunnels underneath it. Like, this is like the really first season where like there really hasn't been nothing much going on in the buyer's place.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a turning point for the show too. Granted, we only have one more season out right now, but the fact that you have the main core of the cast leaving Hawkins, Indiana, a whole set piece is leaving too.
Yeah.
It's just a whole element of the show that you've basically grown watching over the past 3 seasons now going to be gone. And now you're
in a way too. It's like I want to tie it back to what we were discussing throughout this whole season, where in season 3 we consider the mall as a character. In a way, we can kind of consider the same thing with the buyer's household itself.
Absolutely.
In season 1 and season 2, because to me that's Joyce saying goodbye herself to the death of what the buyer's house was.
Yep.
And that's the other scene. I knew I missed one. It was Nancy and Jonathan, them talking with each other, and they had a very sweet moment with each other, talking about like, oh, like no, they brought them. Was the line from Murray where how they have shared trauma with each other?
Yep.
And Jonathan brought that back up. Like, it's just another thing. This is another thing added at the pile. We can make it through. Like, we can figure it out. And I thought that was very sweet. And kind of a heart touch for me because, like, again, we don't know where they're moving to, and we assume it. Like, we know it's going to be close enough to where they can travel to each other, but at the same time, further enough where you can't see each other every single weekend.
Yeah.
So from the fact that there was Elle and Mike talking about like, oh, they'll see each other. Mike will go to them during Thanksgiving, and then they will come up during Christmas, and Elle saying "I love you" back to Mike after his spiel in the cabin.
Yep.
So I thought it was a very nice, like, romantic, but like also heartstrung scene throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. And then we get our first mid-credit. Oh, we lost Connor.
Oh, I'm back. Hello?
Connor.
Hello? Can you hear
muted.
me? I don't think so. Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. Sorry, buddy.
It's all good. So
Um,
what I was saying is we finally have our first mid-credit scene of the show, and catching on to the trend of Marvel. So we're at a Russian base, and we have Russian guards stopping another one from taking the American out of his cell, and they throw another prisoner into a cage, and we get a callback. We have a Demogorgon coming out to basically eat the prisoner, which we haven't seen them in a hot minute. So what did you think of that?
Demogorgon on its 2 feet.
Yeah,
That is creepy. I literally, I was like, you gotta be kidding me! It's a damn Demogorgon and it can fucking walk.
Yep.
Like that is just like, oh, you kind of tell it was like oh, what torturous shit's going on here. You see like the kind of like the blood on the floor and everything.
Yep.
As I assume was blood.
Which is also odd because the gate should be closed, so they shouldn't be alive.
Yeah. So what the hell's going on? And we will we would tease it to the next part of this because obviously the Russians are still meddling around in whatever the hell is happening across the gate.
Yeah. So before we get into grades and all that, Connor, what are your predictions for season 4? Because obviously we're entering a new stage of this show. The party's completely split apart. We've lost a few of our main characters. We've lost some main set pieces, and obviously we're seeing an increase in Russian involvement in the show. And obviously the Demogorgons are still around. So what the hell do you think is going to happen in season 4?
So to be fair to the viewers at home, I have seen 3 episodes of season 4. Funny enough, I don't think I've ever seen the very first episode though, which is funny. I caught it in episode 3, 4, and 5, I think.
Okay.
I won't spoil anything here, but I know where I left off.
Okay.
So, but one thing that does intrigue me is, so I do know who the main villain is for the next one.
Okay.
So the things that do intrigue me though with this is because the fact that they're so far, like, I'm curious how much of an influence, Nancy and Jonathan are going to be on the whole plot line because the fact that, Nancy, Jonathan, Robin, and Steve.
Mm-hmm.
Because if my understanding is correct with the timeline for these guys, for all the characters and stuff, is that those are the only 4 that can drive.
Yeah.
So to me, they have to be kind of a central figure to it all. I understand like it's going to be based around the party itself, like they're the main focus.
Yep.
But no, it's going to be there. I'm curious how they're going to solve that problem because I'm assuming we're getting to the late '80s, so like television become a lot more of a fixture, like MTV, and like becoming a lot more of a norm.
Yep.
Telephones becoming a lot more popularized as a form of communication, but like they still have the radios, and knowing them, they're going to be their geeky, ham radio boys, and still do that stuff.
Yep.
But overall, I'm like, I don't know, and this is interesting because this is the first time where going into season 4 where I don't know I don't know how it's going to end up, and it's kind of fun because so I'll peel back the curtain a little bit. When I first started, because I can actually talk about this now because now we introduced, I think, no, is that the new character for next season? I got to look it up real quick before I don't want to spoil anything to our listeners who may be following behind with this. Characters in season 4 of Stranger Things, because I don't want to confuse the character with Robin. And I don't think now I'm thinking about it now. I don't think it's Robin.
All right. Well, then we'll save it for next week then.
I might have to save it for next week, because I thought the very first episode, the very first season, that character, I was shocked it died because I thought character was someone else. So that threw me for a loop in the very beginning, and so it's very very interesting going backward, starting from where I started, and going back in time to where now I'm going to be approaching where it was. Yep, new character. I knew it was not the same person. So we'll get into that a little bit. So next in season 4, you will see my misunderstanding of how they look so similar to each other. At least to how I first pegged them as. But I don't. It's hard to make predictions because it's curious how how are they going to deal with the Russians when they're in Russia.
Yep.
And even that's with me knowing information already.
Yeah.
Because there's I still have questions that aren't answered yet from the knowledge I have, and there's things that I've talked off recording with you two about now that are spoiler-esque, where I don't know how how they're fitting the puzzle pieces from season 3 to season 4.
Yeah.
And I am intrigued. I know it's not really a prediction much, but it is very much. I am curious where my stopgap of knowledge is from these first 2 episodes that I missed, and then how this whole thing's going to end.
Yeah. We will find out. So with that, I say we dive into our ratings. I'll start off with a solid 9.85. This was near perfection for me, but I've seen better, and I know better is coming very soon. So I'm not going to put a full 100 on it yet.
The hype train is still going higher?
Oh, dude. Yes.
I don't know if I can get on board. Maybe I can.
You don't have to.
I don't know.
There's one episode that will hold my 100, and I'm saving it.
I have a guess because I might have already saw it. Because there's one episode that sticks in my mind.
You haven't.
I have not. Because
you haven't seen the end, then you haven't.
It's good, but this is more concise. We'll get there.
To me, this is a. I'm giving a 9.9. This is the best you can possibly get from me right now. If you match this again, cool. I'd be there. And there's one episode that this is my first time really deep diving in Stranger Things, because I know there's one episode in season 4 that I absolutely loved, and I'm actually curious about how your reaction to it, because
it
is honestly it's the reason why actually got me wanting to stop and start from the beginning again. Because how I got into Stranger Things was I caught on late. I was watching with a friend. I'm like, oh, this actually is pretty interesting, and I can relate with a lot of these things. And I'm like, and that's that episode. I can't watch this because the fact that I'm going to ruin everything else in the beginning.
Yep.
I had to start over. I just kind of I can't stop. No, I got to do it justice.
And then I finally gave you a reason to watch.
And you did. You definitely did. And having people to watch it with makes it that much more enjoyable. It's like a book club.
It is. But now with that infamous book club comes the Mitchell rating. I'm going to give it a 9. Let's go 9.64. Why? I don't know, but that's just the number that's sitting in my head.
9.72.
Ooh, you guys did good this week. You guys did good. However,
you did good last week too.
Am I over? That's the question.
What do you got, Mitch?
9.71.
No. Oh, Bob Barker rules. I lose.
That's not how you were closer.
No, you were closer.
Yeah.
The victory goes.
I thought we played Bob Barker rules.
You
No,
can
Bob
play Bob
Barker.
Barker rules in your heart if you want.
Bob
That's right.
Barker's dead. We don't play by his rules anymore.
I just like the progression of this show is us learning Mitchell's just idiosyncrasies and we can predict what he's gonna guess.
Yeah. No, but this is it's there's a reason why Tommy and I have been hyping up season 3 so much. I'm not quite sure if I can hype up season 4 quite as much as he is, but I do think that it is very good. It's just that at a point, episodes were movie length, if not a little longer. And
they are. Season 4 is a whole different demon.
Yeah, there's an episode that's like 2 hours 40 minutes long. That's not an episode. That's a long movie. So
The hell?
exactly. Yep.
Oh yeah, Connor. I didn't get into this yet, but
that's like a block of time I need to schedule around on a weekend.
Yeah,
Connor, this is the shortest episode of season 4. Like, it's like over an hour long. Is like the shortest episode.
Yeah, they're all like 90 minutes basically. Like it's insane. So that's why I think that season 3 is the peak so far. From now, maybe I watched season 4, and I changed my tune a little bit, but this is my favorite so far. I like the way that it concluded. And as far as I'm concerned, this is when Stranger Things mania, quote unquote, was at its peak. Because then, whether it's COVID, whether it's strikes of some sort, whether it's just cleaning up the VFX, we would have to wait 3 years between seasons 4 or 3 and 4, and then
3 and 4,
4 and 5. Because we're not getting Stranger Things the final season until next year, and so it's like these kids are going to be like damn near 52.
I've heard 2026 at this point.
Again,
I've been hearing back and forth.
They have
it's all
really.
Speculation.
It's a great show, but I fear for the final season because I feel like everything is set up for them to drop the ball.
Yeah. But we'll talk about that after season 4. We got a little ways to go for that. But so yeah, that's all I got.
I do want to round this out because I know it's gone along, but something that I want to kind of revisit after season 3 as I'm thinking about this now, because they do this tie-in, so like back to the whole D&D thing. Because now we're including Erica now into the group now, and I'm kind of curious what you think, what type of not motif is the right word, but kind of class that she would fit underneath. Because to me, like Nancy and Jonathan aren't really part of the party, like as in like the D&D group. Erica's being joined in, so I'm kind of curious what she would fall underneath as.
So I can't answer that faithfully because that gets answered in the early stages of season 4.
Oh, okay. That does make sense.
Yeah.
So I do know what class she is.
My guess. So in that case,
the class she chooses is very close to her personality. So I will.
My guess is she will be a rogue.
Do you want the answer?
We can do it off screen.
Okay.
My guess would be a rogue though with her because the fact that she is very much a sharp-witted kind of person and someone who is definitely sly about things herself, and I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued where that's going to go.
Okay.
Because I'm really writing this down now. I'm like, okay, we know Nancy, Jonathan, and Steve. They're not really part of that kind of situation. I can assign something to them.
Yep.
But like, I don't really associate them with the actual class mechanics.
Yeah.
So, anything else, gentlemen, before we head off? This has been a long episode.
That's all I got.
I'm good. Yeah.
Season 3 is finally a wrap. It's taken us a while, but we have finally finished season 3.
Hey, with all our wonderful tribulations, we got there. So, with that, follow us on our social media on Instagram and X and whatever was us out there at Stranger Nerds. or the Jersey Nerds Productions, one of the other. Check out Mitchell's podcast. Was it Press Play? Was it called?
Press
Play
play
action,
action. Yeah, we'll
Press Play
be.
Action. I knew I was missing a word in there.
And guess what?
Um,
Football season is coming soon, so I can't wait to start talking about
Recess will
football.
be reviving.
Yeah, can't wait
Yes,
to talk
all
about
the
football.
sports. Let's go Mets, FYI.
No,
Fuck
Yes.
you.
let's go watch a real sport. You know.
All right, let's wrap this. Come on.
I know. With that, we'll start season 4 as soon as possible, and I guess I'll be looking forward to some movies now because God, that's so long of episodes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Might have to cut this up in pieces. So, with that, have a good one.